Hello, and thank you for inviting me to participate in the BIM Coordination Summit. My topic, Roadmap for a Next Generation Infrastructure. First off, I want to give a shout out to my colleague and dear friend, Paul Doherty. Paul inspires me with his visions of smart cities and the inevitable capabilities of the metaverse and all that's in front of us. While that's inspiring for the big picture, what I'm going to talk about today is much more mundane. The data interoperability required to achieve those big dreams. The I in BIM. The biggest challenge for BIM is the data, the information that we see. We all know the information is all over the place, but the trouble is it's the interoperability between stakeholders that is the challenge. A long time ago, McKinsey did a great article, and I share this link with you. I highly suggest you read it. They talk about the digital ecosystem of construction, and they identify the hundreds and thousands of different data points in which data is exchanged between stakeholders. Each one of them create a barrier, as each one of them has their own data standards, their own data sets, and their own silos, whether it be trade associations or any other mechanism to which has been able to help their individual entities create data interoperability within their silo. But the challenge is we got to break the silo. And right now, as we move to the cloud and move to the metaverse, we have to recognize that the silo approach doesn't work anymore. So our advocacy is not to try to pick one data standard over another, but rather establish and recognize a hierarchy of data standards. And ultimately, the highest hierarchy of data is XBRL, the Extended Business Reporting Language, which is the United States government federal data standard for reporting to the government. But it likewise is mapped to the International Financial Reporting Standard, which when considered together, create data interoperability at an international level, effectively creating an international digital ecosystem architecture. And here again, we're not trying to say that XBRL is the answer. What we're saying is that we are recognizing there are multiple standards. So instead of giving up all those standards, instead finding a way to map them for the interoperability. So instead of thousands and thousands of pieces of data that we try to coordinate, no, we just have to simply get the key data elements, particularly for the capital markets, insurance, finance, and surety, and the other players that really are looking for the key project information. There we can just identify a couple of data sets that all of the various data standards can map to very easily because it's a limited set of data sets and specific to really more financial reporting. We're not interested in the capital markets for what the Earth's compaction rate is or what the angle of a racking system is. What we need to know is the who, what, and where, build the date, pay the date. What are the job numbers that we can track and monitor? Track with this speech. We identified what you can expect from this event, and we specifically highlighted 5 areas that we would try to share with you in a way that you could leave this conference with some idea of a roadmap. The first one, where we are in the United States, there's been a very big push for data standards across the digital ecosystem. I could go to great length about the Data Act, the Financial Transparency Act, and a number of other legislative, federal and state, that have been pushing for data standards to be realized. The 2 examples that I'm looking at that I want to share with is the Orange Button, which was funded by the Department of Energy to create a data standard across the entire chain. In other words, not just the contractor and the subs or the contractor and the owner, the entire chain. Recently, the federal government under Transportation Department has likewise been seeking solutions from private enterprise and from government entities to create a data structure for its transportation projects that cover all phases of the construction lifecycle. So again, when you consider the Department of Transportation and the Department of Energy both looking to achieve the same objective, the best answer is to give them the same taxonomy, the same XBRL. To give you an example of how this is affecting project cost, I share with you SolarApp. SolarApp basically created a single data set for permitting solar. Where this makes a difference, in the United States, there's 43,000 different agencies that have authority to issue permits. Of those, they all ask the same questions, the who, what, and where, but it's heavily fragmented and it's all around the country. So under the orange button, we created the data set for a single data set for permitting that is now being implemented across the country. The latest data I have from 2023 is we've already saved 22,000 estimated hours in agency time, not to count the amount of time saved from the contractors and all the stakeholders that are submitting this information to the federal agencies. Even more important is traditionally getting the permit was its own siloed effort. Now with a single data set that could be importable, that data set could be used to get finance, insurance, and surety. Again, breaking the silo from a single purpose use to a multi-stakeholder use. The orange button created a digital ecosystem, and we expanded the taxonomy to include data elements from the key data sets that we've described. So that now everybody in the digital ecosystem can have access to data that they can export and import for their particular purposes. Now, when we talk about the role of private sector, what we're doing at SRC Digital Insurance Services is we are working with the construction platforms to be able to export out the application for payment, as well as the surety bond data set. You can imagine if you're a surety company and you can now track your performance, that you can provide better surety capacity and better risk management. The website that you see on the site and the sample numbers will let you test out to see what a sample return would look like. And you realize when you get an Excel spreadsheet that has the application for payment, your ability to import it into whatever system you have is very efficient. Having it synergized and standardized with XBRL gives you the assurance that you have an apples to apples data exchange. When we talk about how do we get people to adopt, my example again, the United States Transportation Department solicits proposals from organizations on how to achieve this. Well, if there's a number of proposals out there, and so while you're out there in the workplace and in the environment and working whether you're in Europe, in the United States, Africa, you'll see government agencies trying to take a lead and they will solicit proposals. We recommend that you respond to those proposals and say, hey, Mr. Public Agency, if you adopt this data standard, which again is an open standards-based data set, no trademarks, no proprietary, no endorsements, it's internationally recognized. Well, then the project stakeholders now have a tool. Reduction of risk, of course, reduces project costs. And what's also key is that when you're a small business, having the surety be able to monitor your activity will give you much better access to surety, insurance, and finance, because your counterparty, the financial capital markets, have a better handle on your success, and also importantly, the ability to quickly mitigate in case there's something going wrong, which again, helps our contractor. And you can imagine what a standardized database across trillions of dollars of construction would do for the AI developers as they try to work on trends and analysis that help us build a better ecosystem. So how do we apply it for you? Well, everyone should determine what data sets they need in those particular ones and what systems that you have, how would you send and receive that data? And determine how to import it and export it. If you're in planning or permitting or procurement, provide the information to your counterparties in a format that they can import. Again, the standardized XBRL could be adopted by construction software, estimating software, and all the rest, so that software developers have a consistent form to data in which they can work with. If you're a public agency, private owner, or private contractor, encourage your project management platform to import and export those specific data sets. Require your subcontractors to submit their insurance and surety documents digitally and XBRL. It's amazing. When you require it, people will do it. If it's optional, they'll stick to the way they've always done it. The same with subcontractors to submit their application for payment. It's not hard. And once they do it once as a requirement to get paid, they will do it again and again. And then lastly, provide access to your data to those stakeholders which are providing you insurance coverages or surety coverages. The better information you share with those to whom you are relying on, the more likely they can respond favorably and responsibly to your project's needs, and particularly to support the products in which they provide it, whether it be insurance or surety. If you're a digital construction management system, work to see how you can offer your customers the ability to send and receive those key data sets. If you're a vendor, subcontractor, or any of the project stakeholders, look at those data sets and see which ones you could use in fulfilling your specific needs, and see how you can plug into the digital ecosystem by engaging in the open XBRL data standard. And then lastly, and this is my true call out to the AI developers, imagine what you can do if you had data across silos, across industries, public and private, that was consistent, that allowed you to do analytics. Friend, I can only imagine what the innovative people will come up with to make our projects and the next generation infrastructure better, faster, safer, and more cost effective. So the biggest challenge, as I said at the beginning, is getting the eye and the information for BIM. The eye is there. It's all over the place and it's fragmented, but it can be harnessed. It can be mapped. And when we map it to the premier highest hierarchy data set, the XBRL or the International Financial Reporting Standard, then you know you can share your data with anybody in the digital ecosystem or metaverse, knowing it's apples to apples. Thank you very much for this time to advocate for how dreams can be made from the bottom. And to Paul Doherty, I look forward to the magic you create and the visions you turn into reality. Thank you again, everyone.